What's going on, y'all? Welcome to another episode of NJ Healthy Heat, the podcast with your host, as always, Matthew De La Rosa. I'm joined today with Collin Radack, hitting coach and assistant coach over at Richmond University. He's also a former teammate of mine back in Cedar Park, Texas. He played professional baseball with the St. Louis Cardinals and is also currently in his college Hall of Fame over at Hendrix. So I'm super excited to talk to him today. We're going to talk all things hitting. We're going to talk all things recruiting. We're going to talk about Richmond University as a whole, and then we're also going to dive into some of the clinics that they're known for over at Richmond University. So, Collin, man, it's been some time since we've connected. We got to connect just recently, but tell me what's been going on since you left and kind of your journey since getting out of high school all the way to now being a coach in the college rankings.
Yeah, man. Well, thanks for having me. Yeah, man. So I guess it starts with, like you said, at Cedar Park High School. So I growing up in Austin, Texas. Good baseball town, I would say, right? Texas
Yeah.
is like very, very into their sports. Maybe not as into baseball as they are football, but it's close. It's close. I had a great experience at Cedar Park. I would say it's probably it was probably after my junior year that I really felt like, I wanted to keep playing. You kind of get that realization going into your senior year. It's like one more year of baseball, and it's like weird kind of coming to terms with that. So I knew I wanted to play college baseball, and I think I hadn't necessarily taken like my baseball that seriously as far as like how I trained and things like that. So I had a good senior year. That's when I played with you. So I guess you were a sophomore, right? When I was a senior.
You were a guy who I saw and I looked up to because I was like, man, this guy is doing whatever it takes to go play college baseball. And then you ended up getting your opportunity there. But yeah, you set a great example for us as a senior on your way out the door. So I appreciate that.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I appreciate you saying that. Yeah, and I mean, I can say that about Cedar Park. Like I had guys, when I was your age, I wasn't on sophomore I wasn't on varsity as a sophomore, but there were guys that I looked up to that definitely played the game a certain way that caught my eye. But yeah, so I started. I was like I would say in high school I was like a solid player. Like you put me in the field, I mixed right into any lineup, but there wasn't anything necessarily like I was fast, but I was kind of weak. I was a good hitter, but there were a lot of like physical tools that I realized that I needed to play college baseball. There were a lot of guys that I played with. Like I played on a really good summer team with the Austin Wings.
Yeah, we played on that together, or in the same organization.
Same org. And we had a team where we had some guys who played in the big leagues and a lot of pro guys. And they were, kind of committing to these D1 schools. I felt like I was as good of a baseball player as them, but I realized the thing I fall behind them with is the physical side of things. So I ended up committing to a small Division III school called Hendrix College in Conway, Arkansas. They've moved conferences. Now they're in the SCAC, the SCAC. And I really got into my training, and that my summer going into my freshman year, I put on a bunch of weight, got a lot stronger, and played at Hendrix for 4 years, and just had the best experience.
Now, real quick, sorry to cut you off, but before, like, how I think people are going to want to know, like, how did you go from being undersized to just even a school in Arkansas where we're living in Texas come find you? Like, how did that whole recruiting process even work for you to even get seen?
Yeah, that's a great question. When I say like I had very limited, I had one school that was a better Division III school in Texas who basically kind of gave me like a walk-on opportunity. I wouldn't say I was recruited by them. Hendrix was the only school that I would say recruited me. And the connection that I had was actually, there was a lady who was sort of like a college advisor who was helping me, not with like baseball stuff, but just with my applications and things like that. And she had a connection to Hendrix, one of our assistant coaches who ended up being my head coach my final 2 years, Neil Grote. She got me in touch with him, and they came out and watched me play and then started recruiting me. So really, I would say I had one place I could go play college baseball.
Yeah.
So it is interesting because that was a part of my journey, which was frustrating because I felt like I was better. I think most people who are in that boat, they do feel like they're getting slighted a little bit. Like they're like, oh, I'm better than this. But I think when I look back at it, I think the thing that was healthy for me is I really looked at myself in the mirror and I said, like, there's a reason, like, even though I might disagree with this, there is a reason that people are maybe passing on me. So I'm just going to like work on those things. So the summer after I graduated high school, really got after it. I mean, I just like, I fully devoted myself into the weight room, my nutrition, my recovery, made a lot of huge strength gains to the point where I think like the coach, I came in as a freshman and the coaches were like, whoa, like they weren't quite expecting me being 25, 30 pounds heavier. Right. Played all 4 years. So that was like the important piece for me was Hendrix was a place that I could play as a freshman. I started as a freshman. And that was such an important part of my journey, because if I was not ready to play Division I baseball at the time, I think in 2 years you could have thrown me into Division I baseball and I would have been fine. But if I would have gone somewhere, a Division I school, which is kind of what I wanted, I would not have been ready. I wouldn't have played. Exactly. And I wouldn't have developed, right? Like I needed to be on the field to develop. I see that now. At the time, I didn't realize that as much, but yeah, I had a really good career. It was probably my junior year. After my sophomore summer, I started to get some like scouts. I made some like lists, some like prospect lists for Division III. The summer league I played in was the Great Lakes League.
Nice.
That's when like the pro thing started, kind of the wheels started turning there. Had some guys coming to watch me as a junior. But really it was my senior year where I had scouts like, coming to my games and things like that. And it was the same deal. I had like one team. I guess I had two teams that were interested in me. One team that was really interested in me. If they hadn't have seen me play, I probably wouldn't have gotten drafted. But I got drafted in the 20th round. And that I tell people that it just takes one team to like you, right? You don't need everybody on it. It just takes one team to like you and give you an opportunity. So I got drafted in the 20th round. It was 40 rounds at the time. And I got to play 2.5 seasons with the St. Louis Cardinals. I was kicking it around kind of high A, double A in my third season. And I decided to hang it up. I retired. I would say I could have kicked it around the minor leagues for a few more years. I don't know, maybe make it to the big leagues. So there are a lot of people who are close in my corner who are like, you would have made it to the big leagues. I mean, I'm not sure about that. I mean, who knows? I really stopped playing just because there was a point. I think I was so devoted to my career for that like 6 or 7 year time. And I started to kind of feel my passions shifting towards wanting to coach and be a part of like players' lives and things like that, and less away from my own playing career. And when I started to feel that, I didn't feel like I was talented enough to be able to do what I maybe could have done in professional baseball. Like I needed that drive. As you know, anyone I think who plays in professional baseball, it's really tough once you lose the love for it, right? When you love it, it's amazing, but it's not a great place to be when you've lost your passion for it. And that was kind of my deal. So started coached my first year at Hendrix College in Arkansas. And then after my first season, I moved up here over here to Richmond in the summer of 2017. And I've been here ever since, going on my 9th season now.
Yeah, man. I mean, dude, what a great story. I mean, you and I, we really do share very similar stories, coming from the same origin, playing in the same, travel ball organization. I myself only had the one offer. I think you guys didn't offer me, but I remember you calling me and being like, yo, you got to come to Hendrix. And me being so small minded at the time, I'm like, dude, like, I got to go to Texas or like TCU or somebody's like, in the same boat, was just like not ready to play Division I baseball. Again, to your point, like 2-3 years, junior year, senior year, throw me in Division I baseball would be fine. But like, I think a lot of kids need what we went through, and It's hard to tell them that. And it's hard for them to understand, like, hey, dude, you need to go to some school that like you're going to get some playing time maybe, but like you need to get bigger, faster, stronger. And like, that's not going to happen if you get hand delivered a Division I offer. You're going to think you're somebody that you're not. Whereas, you went to a school where like you had to prove yourself, and you're just like, all right, here's what I got to do every single day to prove myself right and other people wrong. And you did that in spades. So no, I commend you for what an incredible career. Like that, just to get drafted is a blessing in itself. And at least your round is still around. 20th round. I got drafted in the 28th. So like my round doesn't even exist any longer.
As a pitcher, I don't even know if I'd seen you pitch before.
No, yeah, as a pitcher, man. Yeah, so it happened. The scouts started coming to my games though for me as a shortstop, third baseman, second
Oh,
baseman,
wow.
even catching because I was a left-handed stick. I was like 220. I threw it 100 across the diamond. I started hitting homers and RBIs, things like that, but slow. I don't think I ran. I don't think I ever sniffed a sub seven.
Yeah, but you
You
hit, but
know?
you hit bombs. See, that was me. I could run, but I just like I freaking it was tough for me to get not that tough for me to get the ball. I could get the ball over the outfielders' heads, but I didn't that wasn't in my like my approach, you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. Well, dude, it was only my approach with an aluminum bat. In my 2 summers in the Northwoods League, I think I hit 220
Yeah,
with
it's
wood.
tough to work
You
wood.
know, so it's like whatever.
Tough to
Um,
work wood.
but now that you're in the coaching realm, like, what are some things that you're learning about yourself as a coach rather than you being a player? Like, what has the game opened you up kind of mentally to that you didn't necessarily see as a player?
Yeah, it's a good question. I got to bring myself back because it's funny because now, I mean, it's been over 10 years since I've, yeah, I guess I'm going on about 10 years now that since I've played, which is a
Yeah,
long time. I think the hardest thing that you realize really quick when you coach is that not every player is like you. Like, I think you go into coaching with some of these passions of like, this worked for me, right? And so it's going to work for everybody else. And I think I learned really quick that like, really well really nobody's like me, right? Like, we're all unique. There's no player that's alike, everybody's different. I think you can like bucket guys and say like their personality or how they hit or whatever
mhm.
aligns with this philosophy or methodology or whatever, but I think I learned really quick. I'm like, man, every player is unique, and to kind of assume that a guy is a certain way is really not a great thing. Like, I think and that's part of the reason why I got into coaching was the relationship side of things. So I think I realized really quickly, I'm like, on the baseball side, there's a lot of learning that you have to do about a player to learn what makes him tick. Um, and just because one thing works for one guy doesn't mean it works for another guy, or just because it worked for you doesn't mean it's going to work for somebody else. So I think sometimes I assumed that guys would understand hitting the way I understood it, and I had to kind of break free of that mold and say like every player is going to have a unique way that they approach hitting, and you have to learn that player first before you can really start to like mold him and develop him, I think.
So when you're obviously you're everybody's a little bit different and you're trying to find your way to have those conversations about whatever it may be, but each coach has to have and each program has to have their main like philosophy of like here's what we believe in and here's what we're going to go after. Like over at Richmond, what do you think your hitting philosophy is? Whether it's I'll just leave it there. What is your hitting philosophy over at Richmond?
Yeah. So I think, well, first off, like I've had, so my first my first part in Hendricks, I worked for Tracy Woodson, and then Coach Mick Aoki took over about 3 years ago. This will be his third season.
Yeah, y'all just coming
I've
off the
been,
best season that y'all have had in a while.
we have, yeah, we won a lot of games last year. It was a really really special season for us. Unfortunate the way it ended, but yeah, I've been really lucky to work for guys who are very offensive minded. Tracy was a hitter and played in the big leagues, and Mick is a really, really good hitting guy, and is really development minded and really offensively driven. So I think, I'm always appreciative of that because I think the hitting coach is going to operate within the frame of the culture and the philosophy of the head coach. So I'll speak more recently, like with Mick, is I think the way that we like to think about offense is kind of like I said, where it's like every year is unique because you're going to have a different set of players who have a unique skill set. We're not really married to one kind of skill set. Like, we're not going to say like, hey, we're going to be a team that hits for power, or we're going to be a team that steals bases. I think in the time that Mick's been here, 2 years, past those 2 seasons, we had two very different offenses. And I think we kind of adapt to those guys. So really the thing that we really press with our guys is we want you to be the best version of yourself. So whatever that is. Like if you're, like you said, for you're a guy that, you could drive the baseball and hit for power a little bit. We have those guys in our lineup and on our team. And the best version of themselves is maybe going to be, some double-digit home run numbers and things like that. And then we have other guys where it's like, hey, if you've hit no homers all year, we don't really care, right? Like you have a different skill set and things like that. This year we graduated a lot of guys last year. We had a lot of power in our lineup. We have a lot of new guys and we have a lot of speed this year. So last year we weren't so consumed with like our base stealing. This year we see that as a really integral part of our offense is stealing bases, laying down bunts. Coach Kyle Norman, just took Coach Nate Mulberg's spot, who I worked with for a long time, who's now the head coach at Johns Hopkins. And I will say this too, I worked with Nate my whole career at Richmond. He's a great offensive guy too. So I think we've been really blessed as a staff where we have really good offensive guys, not just one, but there's multiple that I think really helps us. But anyway, we're concerned. I think like our primary focus at Richmond is scoring runs, right? So whatever we have like in our lineup, like we're going to maximize, our certain guys' skill sets, score as many runs as we can. And within college baseball, playing in February versus playing in May is very different. Ball flies different. You have days, especially at our field, where wind is howling out and it plays pretty small. And then you have days where that wind is heavy and blowing in. And it doesn't matter really how hard you hit it. It's probably, if it's in the air, it's probably getting caught by an outfielder. So we want to have like a multifaceted offense where we can score runs a lot of different ways. Like if we need to pop some balls out of the yard and it's, in our favor there, we can do that. If we need to hit some low line drives, hard ground balls, lay down some bunts, steal some bases to score some runs, put pressure on the defense, we want to be able to do that. So, that's kind of, that's our philosophy, I guess, is very individualized by who we have in our lineup, the team that year, and what we feel like our best road to scoring more runs is.
Definitely. So if it's by individual player that you have on your team, then how do you guys look at recruiting then? If you're not looking for a certain skill set, I've talked to some coaches who are like, hey, our park is way too big and we don't need any boppers in our lineup. We need dudes who are going to, put balls in gaps and run. We've got guys who, have smaller ballparks to left field. And we're like, hey, we're looking for big donkey right-handed hitters who can change the, course of the game in one swing. So how do y'all approach then who you're looking at when it comes to recruiting?
Yeah, really good question. Yeah, we're definitely not married to a certain kind of skill set. We're looking, at the end of the day, we're looking for good baseball players that we feel like can fit into our lineup. So when we're looking at high school guys, every class, we're going to have pretty much every position. So some years we might have more infielders or more catchers, depending on what we got leaving and things like that. But I think like you always want a guy or two in your class that you feel like can truly play the shortstop position. I think we do get some guys who are shortstops in high school that we maybe don't see them playing shortstop, like at our level, but hey, they could play third, they could play second, and they run well, so they can obviously play in the outfield. Those guys are definitely more of like those offensive driven guys. So I think for our recruiting for position players, I would say at its core, we really value scoring runs. That's something that Mick is big on. Is it's like, hey, this, to win baseball games, you got to score a run. So we're going to look for offensive tools from guys. And then I think on the defensive side, it's really just looking for that athleticism. So if we're looking for like an outfielder, it's, pretty straightforward. I don't think we're like unique compared to other programs. We're looking for guys who can run, guys who are athletic, who can run balls down. In the infield, we're looking for the actions a little bit. Like, hey, does it look like, in a year or two he can play college? He can play Division I infield. And I think for the infielders, I think that arm strength is important. I would say for us, for the outfield, arm strength's probably like last on the list. Not that it's not important, but we're probably more concerned with the hit tool and the speed. And then same thing for catchers. I think I've seen both in our class where we have guys who are like, is he going to be a catcher? Maybe, maybe not, but he can really hit. And we could see him maybe playing other positions. And then there's other guys where we're seeing him as like, hey, this defensively, this seems like this is a guy who's going to play catcher for his whole career. And I do think it's important for catchers when you're recruiting catchers, guys that can play multiple positions. catching is like the one position on the field where you only got one, right? So if we have some good, like a couple of good catchers in our class, which we tend to, this year is a good example. I would say we have 3 catchers who could be in our lineup in any given day. We're hoping that one of those guys, it's easy for us if he's hitting well, it's easy for us to throw him into another position so that we don't have to clog up, a DH spot for him. So, yeah.
Catching's a weird position now. I wouldn't say a weird position, but it's definitely changed where you used to take like better defensive catcher over somebody who could swing it a little bit better, but maybe lack the ability to block balls and control the run game. Now it seems like if you're a catcher and you want to play high level baseball, like you have to be a top hitter. Like you got to be banging balls all around. So interesting what's going on with that catching position. I've never really caught, so I don't know how to speak on it by any means, but that's already a demanding position defensively, but then also, hey, you got to hit 330 and have some bombs in there. That's a tough ask for it. Yep.
I think it's one of the tougher positions to evaluate as for a high schooler, right? Like defensively, because there's guys that can be really good catchers in high school. It doesn't mean they're going to be ready to catch as a freshman. I think it takes a lot of time for catchers who come in as freshmen to mold. I think too, like generally, it seems like that catchers in the portal are like teams find catchers in the portal. So I think when you're recruiting high school guys, I think you're starting to see maybe those offensively driven catchers kind of rise to the top at times, because teams always feel like, hey, if we need to like fill in some defense, we can find that in the portal. They say what's the old phrase where if you hit, you stick. Like you're gonna play.
If you don't hit, if you hit, you don't sit.
If you don't, there it is. If you hit, you don't sit. So I think, that's like that for recruiting. If you rake and you're driving balls all over the field, you're probably gonna be able to play college baseball. Somebody's gonna want you, right? Everybody needs it.
Yeah. So you've mentioned high school recruits and the portal. Obviously everybody is using both. How do you guys kind of evaluate high school versus, the portal? Obviously you guys are looking for great baseball players, but, I've talked to some coaches who don't even look at the portal, and some coaches who don't even look at high school kids anymore.
Yeah, it's a good question. There's like so much misinformation about our level and the portal and things like that. Like I've read at places where they're like, no mid majors are even looking at high school guys. They just go into the portal. And that might be true for some schools. And then, like you said, some schools might not get any portal guys. Every school is different. It's a pretty easy answer. You go on Perfect Game and look at recent high school classes, and you can see how many high school guys they're bringing in, how many portal guys, and then you can see in their roster how many portal guys they're bringing in. For us, this year we have I don't know exactly how many freshmen we have, but it's double digits. We have double digit freshman class. We're going to be up towards that for the next class. The way we think of it, I think you kind of make your money with your high school recruits. Like those are the guys that you can find, you can develop them. A lot of our best players in the last 6-7 years have been our like homegrown guys. And then we do get portal guys. It's starting to get tougher, and that pool is getting smaller. So I'd say every year, the amount of portal guys we're getting is going down, and we're starting to see like there's certain positions in the portal that are just uber competitive to get. Some are easier than others. So that's where we're trying to be smart, where we're like, hey, we feel confident we can maybe find some of these positions in the portal. These not so much. So we're really going to focus our high school recruiting on those positions. And for us, the way we think of the portal is we're kind of filling our holes. So I think the way to think about college baseball now, at least in Division I, is you'd have like this kind of flow of like, you'd have like good years, then you'd have rebuild years. And in your rebuild years, your young guys who didn't play as much, now they're moving up into the starting position, and you have some inexperience in your lineup and things like that. And that's like a rebuild year. And then the next year, those guys have experience, and that's like one of your good years. I think in Division I baseball, there's really no rebuild years now, because you can fill those holes, right? Like you have a spot where you're like, hey, we don't have a lot of experience. You can go find experience in the portal. So that's generally how we're kind of attacking it. Having to be a lot smarter with it now because of the roster changes. The classes are much smaller, so you got to be a little smarter as far as like the numbers that you bring in and things like that. I think that's our philosophy. We're going to bring in more high school guys than we are portal guys. Portal is kind of filling our holes. And again, I think it's going to continue to weight more towards the high school side as years go, because less guys have those extra years of eligibility. And I think it's getting, there's more tools for Division I schools to evaluate guys in the portal. Like, it used to be this ginormous list of just names and you're having to sort through them and it's overwhelming. I think schools are now better at being able to like filter that down. So for the quality players that are going to be able to come in and play for us right away, now like everybody's after those guys, right? So it's just uber competitive.
Now, your junior year, is Collin Radack hitting the portal? If you go back, if the portal was accessible to you, are you going out there and leaving?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think about that a lot. I would have had a lot of people telling me to do that.
You would have had a lot of people knocking on your door being like, hey, brother, come to my school.
Yeah. It's interesting. I mean, people like every, I think, college coach, the question people ask, they're like, what do you think about the portal? Right. I like to look, I think obviously college sports is different. It's different than it was 10 years ago. It's different than it was 5 years ago. Right. I think different is hard for a lot of people. Like, change is hard. They get married. That's us as people, right? We get kind of like locked into like, this is how it's supposed to be. Things change. It becomes, it's like hard for us to handle. We're kind of in that change period right now where we're getting used to it. I don't think it's bad. I think, it's different where like, at any school, you have a guy who's a freshman, sophomore, he has a really good season. And then there's going to be that temptation of like, oh shoot, I can hop into the portal and go play in the ACC and make some NIL money. I don't think you can like blame the kids for that. Like they're just they're wanting to move up and pursue professional baseball, and
it's the system.
Playing the system. There's financially opportunities and stuff for them. I think for us, I think, the answer to your question, I probably would have jumped in the portal because I had 3 really quality years of Division III baseball, and I had dreams of playing professional baseball, and I would have felt like, hey, like, let's go test my skill set at the next level. I don't know. I mean, obviously I did get drafted at a Division III school. I don't always think people need, there's sometimes that pressure of like, I have to jump in the portal if I want to play professionally. I don't know if that's necessarily true. I mean, you're in the same boat, like D2 school, right?
JUCO first. Cisco Junior College first.
There you go. So yeah, interesting question. That's a good question.
Yeah, man. I think about it too. Sometimes I wonder if I would have gone D1, same with you, I bet. Like, if you would have had a lesser year at a D1 rather than a dominant senior year at, for me, D2, D3, like, do you still get the same look? So that they're like, hey, we could take a little flyer on this guy. This guy might pan out. Or, hey, he went from D3 to D1. His numbers substantially dropped. He's not going to make it. We'll move on. Yeah. So I think about that too.
It's not always automatic, right? Doesn't mean you're going to move up and just start raking.
Just real quick on this topic, like, because you mentioned it, like NIL, you guys, Richmond involved? You guys got anybody on the team doing some NIL stuff through y'all, or how are y'all helping your players with NIL, if at all? Maybe getting some local sponsorship deals, anything like that? Or is that kind of left to the players to kind of go do themselves?
Most of that is just on them.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say there's any like packages that are mind blowing.
No, yeah, but still,
they like food, anything that they can get some food to make some Instagram posts and things like that. But at least for us, not really, the NIL stuff isn't, we're kind of sheltered from it all. Like that, it doesn't affect our day-to-day operations as far as what we do or our recruiting. Obviously, like, we've had guys who have gone into the portal and transferred to other schools, and then that becomes a part, the NIL stuff becomes a part of their journey. But at least for Richmond, we would be kind of operating, and I would say this is a lot of mid-major and small D1s. The way that we operate from recruiting perspective and things like that is not any different than really how it's been pre-NIL.
Gotcha. All right. Transitioning back to Richmond a little bit, like overall, if there's somebody out there right now, parent player who is interested in Richmond, like, they don't know much about your school, what would you tell them Richmond is? Like, what is the reason somebody would want to come play at Richmond University? What does it offer, on the baseball field as well as in the classroom academically, how they're setting up, kids for future success?
Yeah, for sure. I think at U of R, it is. I mean, I've been there for a long time, and I really appreciate the student athlete experience. I think what Richmond does extremely well is it's this blend. It's this really perfect blend of academics and athletics and life. If a kid goes to an Ivy League school, unbelievable education, obviously, right? Their athletic experience is going to be a little bit different from the rest of Division I sports. Season's a little shorter, starts a little bit later. At least the beginning, it's kind of like crammed in a little bit. For us, you get that close to an Ivy League academic experience while getting the full Division I athletic experience. So I think for our guys and their life, like if you talk about like for the future of post baseball and things like that, it's such a good place to be because they get like high quality academics, and the academics is really rigorous and challenging, and they're having to balance that with being a Division I baseball player, all the practices, all the pressure that comes along with playing and going through the course of a season. Our guys that do both really well, like they're really high quality players. And when I say high quality players, I mean, doesn't necessarily mean they're playing every day and putting up good numbers, but they work their rear off. They are great teammates. They really are dedicated to it. And they really do a good job in the classroom, and they engage with, their professors and the school well. They tend to be very successful in their life. And I think that's very much a testament to the goal of the University of Richmond, which is to provide student athletes with this kind of unique experience where it's not just, they're an athlete, but like they're an athlete. They're also a student. They're also engaged in the community. And our alumni base is really strong, and guys that graduate from here, I think, having a great baseball experience behind them and having, a really strong skill set to devote to the workforce.
That's awesome, man. Yeah. Until coming up here, like obviously I've heard of Richmond, but like didn't really know much about Richmond. And then once I found out you were there, definitely have done a little bit more research on there. But to us Southern kids, like it's just not. I guess y'all are in the South, but I think of Southern like being in Texas, but wouldn't really know much about you guys. Do you guys get a lot of guys from different parts of the country, or you guys getting the majority of your guys from the Virginia Northeast area, like where your recruits coming from for the most part?
Yeah, at least for baseball, we're kind of all over. As you've said, like we have a big pull, I think, in the Northeast. So like your PA, New Jersey, we tend to get your Boston. We get like some Mass and Connecticut guys. A lot of those guys really want to come to Richmond. I think it's like close enough to home. It's warmer. There's the kind of this pull to Richmond. Everyone's pretty much heard of it.
Yeah,
like you said, Texas, not as much, right? But I think we're recruiting Texas a lot heavier just because there's some really good players, and I think academically we kind of have this cool niche in Texas. We have guys from Florida, we have guys from the West Coast, we have guys everywhere. So we really work to do that. To obviously further away is harder for us to get to, especially now with some of the new rules. There's an extra coach on the road and things like that. It is easier for us to go to places further away. And we definitely want to have a presence all over the country. And I think in particular, thinking about like your baseball hotbeds. So, your Floridas, your Georgias, your Texases, your Arizonas, your Californias, being very present in those areas to find some guys.
And so I think when I work with a lot of high school players and talk to a lot of their parents, and by no means do I solicit myself as, recruiting services, because I just don't, but I do help a lot of kids on their journey. And, the question I get a lot from parents is like, well, how do I get seen by a school? Let's say that, we're talking to a kid who's out in Colorado who wants to go to Richmond. He's just like, well, how do I get seen by Richmond? Like, what are some things? Obviously, you're going to talk about your clinics and, like, it's great to come on scene, but how important is, your high school? How important is your high school coach to communicate with guys? How important is your travel ball? Can you kind of speak on how Richmond goes about, going to, I guess, showcases versus, y'all's on-site clinics, things like that?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think, yeah, when we find guys, I mean, it's all, we have connections with coaches who send us guys and things like that. But I think at its core, you talk about camps. I think the interesting part about the East Coast is there are a good amount of opportunities for kids to come to the East Coast, do a camp where there is a lot of schools there, like in the 30 plus range. You know, we do one of those or two of those during the summer where we bring in, one event's going to have 22 schools, one has 34.
Yeah.
You have some of the big camps that they're going to have a little bit more than that. So I think that creates a good opportunity for a kid that is not from the East Coast who can come in, obviously like very aware that, it's time, it's money, it's flights, it's hotels. The registration costs generally to those sorts of camps are a little bit on the higher side, but they provide this really unique value where you can take, a couple of days and you can get in front of a large amount of schools that are, for the most part, going to be concentrated along kind of the East Coast. And they're going to be, depending on the camp, they're going to be more on the academic side. So I think that's where a lot of the kids that we get that are from, like, especially like the West Coast, because we're not maybe in California as much, but we do see a lot of California kids because there's a lot of kids that are making the trip across the country, going to some of those events. And then now they're getting on radars of schools and things like that. The futures games, PBR, is really helpful for us too, where, I think it's kind of a no-brainer for a kid if he makes that roster.
Yeah.
To go, because every Division I school is going to be there. That's an easy way for us to see kids from states that we might not normally be recruiting at. And then obviously, I think some of those bigger tournaments provide that opportunity too, where your PBR and WWBA and things like that. So I think it's important for if you're a player from wherever, kind of go find things that are in that area where there's going to be schools that you're interested in who can see you. I think that's important.
And when you do go to these big events and you put on these big events, so you're seeing it on a yearly basis now, and you've got some experience in it. Some kids and parents might feel like they'll go to a big event and it might not be what they were expecting, or maybe the expectations going in weren't what it should have been, because they're just like, well, how am I supposed to get seen if there's hundreds of kids here? Like, how are they feeling the value? You know what I'm saying? Like, they want to make sure, so basically my question is going to be, what can a kid and a family do to best set themselves up for, success with a big camp like that, where there's a bunch of coaches there, and it's great that there's coaches there, but how do you continue that conversation, if there even is a conversation with coaches, so that you can get to that next level?
Yeah, for sure. I think for some of the bigger events, just kind of doing your homework and making sure, not all events are created equal, just like anything. What
do you think makes a good event? What do you think makes a good event?
I think it's got the exposure that you want. So it's got the schools there that you're hoping for. I think it needs to provide a structure where those schools will actually be able to see you. I think sometimes there might be a large list of schools attending, but if there's like a couple of things going on, that schools might not be guaranteed to see you, if that makes sense. So yeah, the schools that are there that you're interested in, a format that allows for them to see you, and then also playing time. I think there is huge demand for this industry of like players getting in front of coaches, and that's why the camp scene is what it is. So I think making sure that there's like a quality product there, that they're not just like piling kids in. There should be some sort of like limit on certain positions, things like that, to make sure that, hey, like obviously like shortstop, popular position, catcher, popular position. You're not going to roll into a game and you're on a team with, 6 other shortstops and you're only going to get to play one inning there. Same with the at bats, like you're going to go into a game and get a decent number of at bats, and it's not going to be like 1 or 2, I think making sure you kind of do your homework, and if in the best world is you talk to people who have been to those, right? If they've been to this camp, say, hey, how was it? What was your experience like? Things like that. Generally, with those bigger events, people, there's people who go to there's a lot of people that go. So, I think that's important, is just doing your homework and figuring out like, hey, if I'm going to spend this time and this money, making sure that it is like the right value that you're looking for.
Yeah, definitely. And so after a big event, what does a player do? They need to email all the coaches. They just email the coaches that, maybe talk to them. Like what do you think their next step should be for that?
Yeah, I think the email communication after an event is awesome.
Realistically, how many kids, if you run a camp, let's say with 100 kids, how many kids are emailing you guys after that, realistically?
Ooh, that's a good question.
I imagine it's high.
That's a good question. It is high. Maybe not as high as you'd think it is. Probably a quarter. A quarter is probably emailing back.
I think it's low. Like, because that's something that's like elementary school. Like, go to the event. Hey, make sure you email them afterwards. So 75% of the kids aren't doing like the bare minimum.
Yeah, there's definitely more in the fall. Higher percentage in the fall, because I think in the summer there's more going on. So like, kid goes to an event, probably playing that next weekend, and then maybe goes to another event. Yeah, I'm with you. I think that's good. I will say this: like, I think the best feedback for a player is our coaches reaching out to them. So if they go to a big event, let's say there's 35 schools there, for the most part, if a school is interested in you, they're going to reach out to you, right? So that, I think it's a good barometer for a kid. If it's, let's say it's a kid going into his senior year, he goes to an event and it's like a handful of Division III schools that are reaching out to him. No Division I schools are reaching out to him. Then that's like great feedback for him, and being like, all right, I should probably hone myself in on the Division III thing. You know what I mean? Or, you go to an event, maybe it's a bunch of Division III schools and you're like hardly getting any interest. That probably would have been me.
Yeah.
That's the time where you're like, hey, don't take it. Again, I think college baseball, it's extremely hard to play college baseball these days. There's less spots. It's uber competitive. There's tons of high school players out there. There's a lot of really quality players that don't have opportunities to play. So I think just use that to motivate you. Be like, hey, what do I need to work on? What do I need to get better at? And go work on those things,
Yeah, definitely. And you got to have somebody outside of your parents and maybe even your high school coach that can assess you with fresh eyes and, a well-intentioned criticism, right? Where it's like, hey, this is what I see here. Your mom and dad think you're great, but, you're not as great as you think you could be, or as you think you are right now.
For sure.
Let me ask you about like Twitter and X. I know that you're big on Twitter and you use that, and the baseball community is huge on Twitter right now. Like, how are you guys using that? Like, what should kids be utilizing? How should they be using X?
Yeah. I still feel like I got to call it Twitter.
It's Twitter, dude. It's Twitter. I don't know, man.
It's Twitter. We're in this weird like middle ground now where it's like you kind of use it both ways. You're like X, Twitter. Like when nobody wants to.
I just read Elon Musk's book, and like he's just got this weird fascination with the letter X. Like, it's just a weird thing.
It's funny because nobody really. It'll be interesting to see if we ever just like stop calling it Twitter, because we call it Twitter. You know what I mean? Yeah, I think Twitter is such a good. It's like almost like the best recruiting profile in some ways, because it's so easy to pull up. So if I'm out on the road and I'm like reaching out to some coaches and being like, all right, I'm going to be at this game. Who are your guys? They send me a list of guys. The first thing I'm doing is I'm looking for their Twitter profile. and generally in a perfect world, I can see like there's a GPA on there. It's got like some of their info in the bio. And then towards the top of their feed, there's some like good video of them, or whatever, something pinned, whatever. My suggestion to people would be like, I love it. I love it when guys are retweeting their boys. You know what I mean? Like their boys are double, they're retweeting it, but like just make sure there's something pinned at the top where it's like if somebody's looking at your profile, they're not having to scroll way down to find like, hey, where's an actual video of this kid and not all of his his teammates dropping bombs or throwing 90. You know what I mean?
Because then you're on that.
Something towards the top that gives you an idea, a general idea of like who the player is. It doesn't need to be crazy. But yeah, just to see like, all right, I can get an idea of like, oh, this kid's, pretty good, or I want to look for this, whatever it is.
Yeah, I think Twitter's. So what are some like don't do's like in the actually, you know what? Scrap that. You already answered that. You mentioned GPA. Are you guys like a testing school? Do you guys take consideration of the SAT, ACT?
We are not right now. We're test optional. That could change. Since I've been at Richmond, that's been both. We've taken the test, and then we haven't. Not sure what the future will hold with that. But as of right now, we are test optional.
Nice. All right. Well, man, that was a ton of info that you just dropped on these people. I think a lot of people come onto this, they want to hear a little bit about Richmond, but really a lot of people who listen to this are, one, they're coaches, and two, they're just parents of high school players, and they're always trying to figure out different ways to go about the recruiting process. So you dropped a lot of knowledge on there. Anything else on the recruiting end that you would give advice to a player or parent listening right now?
Maybe one parting word of advice. We talk about this a lot to the kids that come through our camps. Is all this recruiting stuff. It's important, right? Go to schools, work on all the logistics of like the emails you're going to do and things like that. But the most important thing you can do for yourself as a player is to make sure that like the thing that's driving your time and your energy is your own development. It's becoming the best player that you can be. Putting those blinders on. I think it's so hard. It's so easy to compare, and it's like this kid's getting these offers and whatever. And we're not that old, but we didn't really grow up in that world. No. It was a lot different, like rankings and things like that.
Dude, the rankings is crazy.
Like it's crazy. It's it's not bad. It's not bad.
It's not bad, but I just can only imagine like being in high school and having to sit there and like know that like there's a guy on your team. It takes a special kid to be able to really block that out and not feel some type of way that like a guy on your team is ranked and like you don't even have a star next to your name. I'd be like, bro, I might be the worst baseball player ever. Like
totally. And that I think that for parents, especially, like the goal of every parent is like you're trying to do the best for your kid. And that's like so admirable. But I think putting yourself in their shoes of like, man, it's a challenging world where you're either dealing with a kid where it's like, man, he's like going to deal, his ego is a little bit crushed because of like what you just said. Or maybe he's like, thinks he's the man because all of a sudden he's like a top PBR ranking. When at the end of the day, like the goal for each guy should be, hey, become the best player you can be. You know what I mean? Be the best that you can be. Most everybody's not going to make a career in the big leagues. So like, why is all this stuff valuable? It's valuable because it's teaching kids how to handle the pressure of it all, how to work hard, how to be devoted to something, how to be on a team, how to handle adversity. It's all the things that we love about sports and we love about baseball. So never like losing sight of that and being like, hey, that's the most important thing. And if as a high schooler, they're on that journey to being their best self, it's hard for guys to be hidden these days. Like if you're good and you can play college baseball, like there's enough stuff out there. Like someone's going to find you. So like having faith in that, where it's like, I don't need to like make this happen, where it's like, if I just send enough emails and connect with enough people, then I'll be able to play college baseball. It's like, no. Like go develop yourself, go get better. I started that journey a little late, I wouldn't say too late. I mean, it was just a part of kind of me maturing and stuff like that. It was part of growing up. But that's the most, when the kid's baseball career is over, maybe that's in high school, maybe that's after 4 years in college, maybe that's after a career in pro ball. They're going to have to jump into real life, and the things that are valuable are the things that all the lessons they learned from that game, from the game of like working hard and all that stuff. So that's what I got.
In between my pro ball career and me getting back into baseball, I actually worked in the recruiting landscape, and I talked to hiring managers, directors all the time. And, they're always just like, Matt, bring me, somebody with this skill set, but also like if you find somebody who's an athlete, bring those people too, because they work well in our environment. So it seems like outside of like baseball, what is it, or any sport really, managers and people who work in corporations or anything like that, they're always looking for people who have some form of sports background, because it's already shown that you can go through 4 years of college, pay attention, play school, also play ball, show up to classes, show up to your workouts, whatever it may be. So you've already proven to an employer that like you're not going to be a problem in their machine there. So great stuff. Where can people contact you? How do they get in touch with you?
I guess probably my email. I'm not on Twitter as much as I say I should be. I'm trying to get off social media. You know what I mean? I don't want to.
I would love to, man. I would love to. I have to like have this social media to like grow my business, but I always tell people it's a form of marketing for me. But I don't like social media. I wish I could live in a world where people just knew who I was and like wanted my services without, But that's not the world.
I'm in that boat with Twitter. I don't do any other social media besides for Twitter. I like you said, I need it to some extent just for what we do with our camps, and then for recruit. Like if I can't look at a kid's profile unless I'm logged in, which is so brutal. But email is the best way. Email is the best way.
I'll put that for those listening. I'll put that in the description here. Whether you're watching this on YouTube or listening to Apple or Spotify, it'll be in the description below. Collin, really, really appreciate your time, man. Wishing you guys over at Richmond the best of luck. Hopefully you guys capitalize on another great season and bouncing back on top of last year. So good luck to you guys. And thanks.
Thank you, man.